The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users. On demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on Gary's blog, www.garybaumgarten.com, where you are invited to comment whether you agree with Gary or not. And thanks to our friends on CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated coast to coast across the United States to 12 million additional households. I'm your fill-in host, folks, Boaz Frankel. That's right, you're stuck with me, and I'm not a clone, I'm the real thing. And I hope we all enjoyed the earlier show we had today with the findings of building number 7 at Ground Zero. We had a nearly two and a half hour discussion about the issue. And if the topic of discussion today doesn't go well, we can always go back to that. But I suspect it will go good. Cloning is an interesting topic, something that I know that everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to have a clone of himself so that he can sit back and he or she can sit back and do nothing while his or her clone does all the work and so on and so forth. Not, at least according to the American government. Now, let's recap and go back. The cloning of Dolly the sheep in 1997 by Ian Wilmot and his colleagues at the Roslin Institute in Edinburgh generated a spontaneous worldwide reaction. Dr. Richard Seed, an American geneticist, claimed he would be able to clone human beings within a year. A Korean doctor was reported to have created and killed the first human clone, believe it or not. President Clinton ordered research into the ethics of human cloning, which subsequently became the Shapiro Report. The United States has imposed a moratorium on human cloning and a ban on federal funding of cloning research that will be reviewed every 5 years. One bill to make human cloning lawful and another demanding its prohibition were both rejected by Congress in 1999. The British government claimed that existing legislation regulating embryo research banned human cloning, but a strict interpretation of the statute would suggest that cloning remains lawful in Britain. Germany, Switzerland, and several American states have passed laws expressly forbidding human cloning, whereas Canada and Ireland have no relevant legislation at present. The opposition of international organizations towards human cloning seems clear. The European Parliament, the Council of Europe, UNESCO, and the WHO have all passed resolutions asserting that human cloning is both morally and legally wrong. Well, let's look take a closer look into a little bit of the pros and cons of cloning human beings. So some of the pros that I've come up with some research that I've done before the show are as such. What the very first one is pretty straightforward. Cloning is playing God. It is not merely intervention in the body's natural processes, but the creation of a new and wholly unnatural process of asexual reproduction. Clerics within the Catholic, Muslim, and Jewish faiths have all expressed their opposition to human cloning. Reproductive cloning harms the integrity of the family. Single people will be able to produce offspring without even the physical presence of a partner. Once born, the child will be denied the love of one parent, most probably the father. Several theologians have recognized that a child is a symbolic expression of the mutual love of its parents and their hope for the future. This sign of love is lost when a child's life begins in a laboratory. If we go on to some of the cons of human cloning, we come up with cloning is, in this respect, no different from any other new medical technology. Research is required on embryos in order to quantify and reduce the risk of the procedures. Embryo research is permitted in Britain until the 14th day of embryo development. Many other Western countries are also actively engaged in embryo research. Evidently, there is no biblical statement on the ethics of human cloning. Who is to say that it is not God's will that we clone ourselves? At least one Hindu writer has indicated that Hindu thought embraces cloning and other assisted reproductive technology. Moreover, every time that a doctor performs life-saving surgery or administers drugs, he is changing the destiny of the patient and could be thus seen as usurping the role of God. Now, you have some of the pros and cons of cloning, and I will start off before we go to our callers by saying that I personally look at the issue of cloning from 2 points of view. My personal religious view and my personal non-religious view. And quite frankly, they somewhat, to a certain extent, clash with each other. Now, my life is not dominated by religion, I will say that right now. But there seems to be a paradox here. And that paradox being, is human cloning, putting it in simple words, because that's basically, I mean, I'm no geneticist, is human cloning playing God? Were we destined to actually reproduce ourselves in such an unnatural way? It's a difficult question. And getting further into it, what about the cloning of organs? There's a lot of research done, and very soon we're going to be able to clone organs. Would that not be part of the preservation of life, or even cloning human beings? Would that not be part of the